Hi, everyone. Very well. I apologize for small technical issues. I am staying in New York. I attended the conference. I'm still in the area. I've been here for the last 2 days. I've been trying to figure out where a good location for me to sit and have the computer on. Well, I'm Kent Turner. With me today is William Albright, and we will use this opportunity to talk about what we've done with this game in order to teach deaf teens how to level up in life. Before I get going, I do want to cover some accessibility issues. We can move forward to the next slide for our access check slide. Visual description quickly. I am a white male, bald, with a black shirt on. Behind me, there's a wall with newspaper design. I'm sitting on what looks like a brown couch. William, over to you.
Hi there, I'm William. I am a black man with black hair, a beard, and glasses. And also in my background is the newsprint, similar to what you see with Kent. And this is Kent. My pronouns are he, him, and her, he, him, and his. You may notice that we have sign language interpreters here. That's because we use American Sign Language, and so they are interpreting into English. We also have accessibility features such as closed captioning, and so please access any of that you may need today. I do want to acknowledge that here at the Games for Change conference, we are on land that was originally inhabited by indigenous peoples who have traveled this area for all time, and we want to acknowledge those communities. Today, we will talk about Deafverse, what NDC is, what Deafverse is. We'll go more in depth about the game and how we help deaf teens level up in life. And we'll also explore a little bit about what's in store for Deafverse. Okay. So to explain a little bit about who we are, my name is Kent. This is William. We met each other way back in high school. We attended a school for the deaf together where we used sign language in a sign language community of deaf people. All of our peers were deaf, teachers all use sign language. And so that informed what we do in our work today. I'm going to show you a quick video of what it means to be deaf because our experience is just ours. There are many ways to be deaf.
Deafness is a spectrum. It's not just one definition. Someone like myself who's late deafened.
I am deaf in one ear and hearing in the other. Some people view me as a deaf person. Some view me as hearing, but it's not one or the other.
I was born deaf. My father is deaf in one ear, so it's hereditary.
I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. The 3 youngest are deafblind.
I switch between deaf and disabled because I'm also a little person.
Being deaf is a big part of who I am, but that's not my only identity. I'm a person of color, biracial, half black and half white, and gay.
This is the condition I have. It's called Usher syndrome. It's a hearing and vision loss.
I grew up oral.
A lot of people consider me hard of hearing.
People do call me hearing impaired, but I'm not. I'm deaf. People think being deaf is a bad thing, but I see it as a positive thing. The culture, language, and history make me who I am today.
The deafblind community, tactile ASL, use of space, the culture all became a part of it.
I'm learning little by little about her chapter, and I can't wait to learn more. I am most comfortable with speaking English.
People with additional disabilities have to think about access and what they want. Do they know what they need?
Throughout educational years, I used note takers. I didn't have interpreters because I didn't know sign language. I didn't know ASL until I was 14.
I used cute speech and was mainstreamed throughout high school.
I went to a public school in the morning, then a deaf school in the afternoon. It was the best of both worlds. The instructors used ASL, which I found to be more inclusive.
I was in both deaf and hearing classes. I wore that bilateral hearing aid cinched across my chest. Very unpleasant.
I got a cochlear implant when I was 15 and went through intensive speech therapy.
In high school, I would sit to the far right, since I could hear on my left side.
In large group discussions where there's dynamic conversation, I use interpreters.
In my own experience, captioning and interpreting together are the most effective.
I want more of a long-term designated interpreter. Someone who knows me well, who knows my work.
As a Black person, I want my interpreter's voice to match me. My culture can't be overlooked.
People automatically think deaf people are all the same, but that's not true. We have layers upon layers.
When you meet us, have an open mind and open heart.
Kent speaking. So as you can see from the video, it gives you just a bit of insight into our community and how we face multiple challenges navigating this world that isn't designed to accommodate our community. We have communication challenges, there are employment challenges, and on, and the list is long. So we here at National Deaf Center have received a grant to focus on improving post-secondary outcomes, meaning that when teens graduate high school, that environment that they enter for education, learning, and employment is what we focus on. And we do have stats from the US Census that in 2019, 1.8 million deaf adults in the United States did not have a job. Our data shows that around 53% of deaf adults have a job, compared to 76% of hearing people. This is a big disparity. Employment is linked to indicators of quality of life, income, health, community, and relationship. So NDC is here to change that. Next slide, please. Can you go back one slide? Thank you. Deafverse is part of the many things we do at NDC to continue improving education and training for deaf people. Deafverse was developed by an all-deaf team at NDC with existing evidence-based research. Next slide. Okay, make sure I'm at the right one. When deaf youth are allowed to make their own choices, it validates themselves. When they're allowed to choose their goals and make decisions, it enhances their ability to succeed in the future. Deaf teens can then also focus on making their choices, advocate for themselves, set goals, solve problems. Deafverse is a web-based full motion video game that invites players to navigate tough situations that deaf people typically encounter in school, the workplace, and other aspects of adulting. And just want to make sure that the sound is coming across and folks are able to hear the interpreter. Can someone give me a thumbs up? Let me know that the sound is coming across okay. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. What I'd like to show next is a short clip of the Deafverse game.
Deafverse is a free game for players who want a safe place to learn and practice self-advocacy. You try your best to focus, watching David sign haltingly. You could help him out or just let David struggle. Wait for the class to finish. Give David some suggested signs. You will face all kinds of challenging situations. Each one offers several paths to choose from. You can try out different scenarios to see which one works best for you. You will have a backpack to keep things in. You'll collect awards as you track your progress through the story. You can unlock badges, pictures, and comic book pages as you progress through the game. The game is based on the real-life experiences faced by deaf people, so you can see and understand what they have gone through and confidently apply what you learned in real life.
They show disbelief and confusion when I say that I am, because they can hardly believe it.
I'm still learning how to handle discrimination.
You can download the Player Strategy Guide. It consists of different examples from other games and situations. Use it to help you think through how to solve problems. Go ahead, play now.
Kent speaking. So today's a good example of this. We had to verify that access was in place, that the interpreters were in place, that the captions were working, that everyone is able to capture the conversation that's going on. These are just some of the many challenges that deaf individuals face. So in thinking of deaf teens and deaf youth, we thought to ourselves, how can we make these experiences relatable and understandable to these teens? And we realized through storytelling. Deaf people love to tell stories and enjoy them as well. With ASL, there was a goldmine for potential content and delivery for important information for a language that children or kids might be deprived in. We also wanted to provide real life experiences to these children in areas that they may not have been exposed to, may have been exposed to in the past. We want them to develop self-advocacy skills as well as other skills. And there are self-advocacy resources that exist, but the drawback is that they don't exist in American Sign Language. That's where the gaps are. Next slide, please. The question is on the screen. Okay, but why? Why would we do this? Deaf youth, okay, maybe someone can grasp that, but what is the correlation? What is the connection there? The correlation is on this slide. Two quick facts. Students who are confident and have a high level of empowerment are 20 times more likely to attend a 2-year college. At NDC, we also did some further research into the root causes when it comes to self-determination. Some of the biggest barriers are limited access to language, limited access to educational opportunities, and also negative attitudes or expectations from their immediate environment, community, or family, or a lack of professionals that can give them that guidance. So there are multiple factors that contribute to delays when it comes to deaf teens. We are hoping to improve this by also helping parents raise their expectations, because it was shown that deaf high school students whose parents expected them to attend post-secondary education did so, or more likely to do so. Now, I'm sure most people at this point might be aware that games are effective for teaching. Due to this conference, I do not need to go in depth on that note, but I do have a slide referencing that. With Deafverse, we are hoping to create a safe place for deaf teens where they can have these experiences navigating scenarios that include discrimination sometimes, and being able to develop the skills to move through them. Now, in case you're wondering the types of learning objectives and skills we were trying to teach or get across to the students, we do have a slide with a couple of those on them. As you can see on this slide, some of the scenarios are challenging and are similar to discrimination experienced by deaf people in the workplace. Many deaf candidates are turned down at the interview phase, aren't afforded accommodations or access. And so we focused on strengthening those key areas. There are also situations that students will have to navigate, what to do when they can't hear in a room. A lot of the scenarios in this world had to do with communication, so that they can work on making those decisions for communication and not be dependent on someone else. We wanted the students to develop strategies so that they could self-advocate and work to find resources to do so. Here is another video clip of the game showing a scenario which will clearly show you what I was just referring to.
You stand idly on the boat, unsure what to do. You drop the duffel bag that you've been carrying and take a look around the boat. You notice the alarm speakers stationed around the edge of the boat do not have lights. You squint in the darkness and realize it will be hard to see for communication.
Maybe you should say something about accommodations?
Kat suggests.
It's perfectly reasonable to ask for some changes in the workplace to improve experience for yourself and others.
You tap Maya's shoulder and ask her if there's anything that can be done to accommodate you on the boat. She wipes rain out of her eyes and begins to reply, but Chance interrupts.
There's no time, he says. We can't do this right now.
Maya holds up a finger to Chance. We can figure this out, she says, turning back to you. What do you need? Lights for alerts and communication. Assistive listening devices. Visual tactile labels.
Okay, this is William, and we will go ahead and talk about what makes Deafverse tick and what makes it work. So we wanted to build a world with a unique and fantastical character, with different characters for players to interact with, addressing their learning objectives to the real world challenges that we knew players would experience. And we wanted them to have a lot of fun while they're doing it. So we worked with deaf artists that brought these stories to life and are really proud of that fact. In Deafverse, you explore a world within a comic book, as you can see here on the slide. You see the comics strips, writes itself in a way that you play, basically writing the story together with the player. So in order to build the game, we had to consider quite a few things before, after, and during production. So we didn't only think about the scenarios that deaf children experienced, but we were thinking about accessibility, how to make everything work together with sign language, audio, text, and decided to go with the full motion video gaming format. And then we branched out via choices in an ABC format. And we explored that using these different interactions and languages. Now, Kent and I had experience working together during some projects during college, and we worked with deaf children, and we have that history together. So when he asked me to join this project, I was completely on board for that. It was something that went through several iterations, and we've learned so much through the process. We realized that when we tried to look at apps that would be friendly to deaf students. But a lot of these apps that were already out there are heavily text-based and they aren't in sign language. And so we had gone through in college hacking an app to make it ASL friendly, not just text-based. Even the responses could be given in ASL. So we were able to work on this project together, make a brand new game from scratch, and use these ideas and give a better front end experience with deaf people designing it from the beginning. And again, to make a choose your own adventure type game, it works wonderfully with the video format, with the FMV format of the game. So in these videos, you're able to completely see the story, be immersed in the story, and enjoy the game, and hopefully not back out of the game before losing interest. So the videos are fast-paced, they load quickly. As you know, it was a lot to work that out and make that successful. So next we have a video that shows you what it takes to produce that FMV type video like we did.
Hi, I'm Justin. This is my name sign. You may be wondering who I am. I'm the face of Deafverse. In World 1, I did most all of the filming in a studio with the full team watching every take, making sure my hair and costuming were just right during all the filming, getting the lighting and background set up. Also a part of the team were 2 ASL specialists and one of the story creators providing me support along the way. Once the pandemic hit, I wasn't able to fly to Austin, Texas for filming, which is where I had done all of the filming for World 1. Since we were quarantined, I was asked if I could manage the filming from my home. I thought, why not give it a shot? I rolled up my sleeves and was ready to get to work when I realized I had no experience with lighting for film. Lucky for me, the Deafverse team had that experience, and we met through FaceTime to walk through the lighting setup and run tests. The team supported me further with a lot of rehearsals and a lot of practice on my part. They would send me the script in advance. Then we used Marco Polo, a video chatting app, to work through the script. The script I was given was in both English and American Sign Language gloss. I would read and practice both to get a good handle on the story until I had memorized the scene and was ready to film. Did I get it right the first take every time? No way! Sometimes I would, but often each scene required many, many takes. Being alone, that meant I was working both in front of and behind the camera. Imagine, I had to move back and forth between performing and then breaking character to watch each scene to decide if there were any errors, checking to make sure my arms and hands didn't move out of the frame, ensuring that everything was clearly communicated. Once that line was just right, it got the green light and I moved on to the next line. I burned a lot of calories, working up a sweat with all the walking back and forth and back and forth. Once I had finished an entire scene, I would send it back to the Deafverse team for their feedback. Sometimes I would have to redo portions because the background may have been messed up or the camera needed to be more close up. It was a lot of refilming and editing. It certainly wasn't a quick and easy process.
Okay. So there you can see Justin, who was our narrator. Oh, hats off to him. His talent with what we call in the deaf community visual vernacular ways of signing, using your hands to really create like a motion picture, to create the story in space is what he did to make this game visual. For example, all the movement you see that he's doing, when you're watching it and you know American Sign Language, you just feel like you're in the game, you're in it, and you're a part of it. So that really draws players into the storytelling experience. Students or whoever plays the game, we wanted them to feel like the game was worth their time, that they were making progress, or if they were doing it within a classroom environment, we wanted to pay attention to how students tracked through the game and the success they saw throughout the game. And it's the whole reason we gamified this experience of teaching these life transition skills. Okay, so what you see here are some badges that we created. Badges can be earned and kept in your Deafverse backpack. That way, whenever you experience completing a particular task, this is the reward you get, and you're able to add these badges to your backpack. I believe we have about 10 badges per world, and then there are other items you can collect as well. You can meet a new person in your world, and get a photo of that person. You get new pages in your comic book as you traverse through Deafverse. So this is used in both the home and classroom environments. When you're able to amass these badges, you are able to watch videos of real life examples from real deaf people who have experienced similar scenarios that they've just played through in a game. We have one example of a medical doctor who is deaf, and he shares his experience navigating the healthcare field and becoming a medical doctor and also being deaf. All right, so we created the first world and we recognized that it was very linear. We told the game where to go. So for the second game, we decided to make it more open-ended, to make it feel more self-directed from the player's perspective. The downside of that is, of course, it was more work for us. There were many more videos, but we placed the level of importance on the kids, not what was easiest for us.
Kent speaking. So the way this helps deaf youth is that we're not done with the game at this point. We know that the world is always changing and one has to keep up. We are noticing we have to keep up with user behavior and how they access information, user behavior in the classroom, and those changes. So how are we doing that? During the pandemic, we did feel disconnected from our stakeholders, and that was something that we noticed. Our stakeholders being those in the post-secondary or pre-high school, pre-graduation high school environment. And we saw a change that professionals were using this tool in the classroom, as well as itinerant teachers and those who provide services. We surveyed them on their use of Deafverse. We also found out that there are other roles like VR counselors that also use Deafverse. And we noticed that the most requested item was from educators to have a way to track their students so that they can provide support in the game while students are playing. So far, Deafverse has only had a single type of account, a login account. So we worked on it to make it much more, to make the game friendlier for the from the instructor perspective. Excuse the interpreter. We have developed really neat items like a strategic guide, and that is accessible via PDF. That can be downloaded from our website. It's got a great graphic design. And we were expecting teachers in the classroom to print their PDFs to use. Aside from that, they can reach out to us and they can use those PDFs. We also realized that those PDFs should be housed online so that they can be downloaded along with the list of videos and those deaf stories from the field so that they too can be shared. Which we felt having all those items accessible was much better than having them locked behind a game registration wall. That way, the deaf community can use those. Or whoever's played the game and would like to share that with someone else can do so as well. I also mentioned a second ago that we had started off with only one type of account. And let me ask you, am I freezing up? Okay, just double checking if I'm freezing. Just making sure I'm okay.
and that the interpreters can see me. We are currently in the process of developing teacher accounts so that they can track classroom activity within the game, so that they can be up to date with where the students are, their progression in the game, or so that they can create lesson plans, have discussions in the classroom about these scenarios in the videos. And so there is more soon to be available for the community. Again, this slide is pointing out that we have online resources available and more. We are working to set up what we call Deafverse portals. A portal will be a brief gaming experience versus having to play through the entire world. The entire world takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to complete, to navigate through the various storylines. Those who enjoy longer gameplay are probably a good fit for that, but we are also looking to find ways to use the materials in the classroom so that teachers can have discussions about a variety of situations or scenarios. So we are working on creating those Deafverse portals, interpreter Deafverse portals for shorter experiences of the game, which would then lead the students into possibly wanting to further play the game. We focus on things like self-advocacy, and we have other worlds coming that we haven't identified yet, but we do know that there are needs. Like, for example, there is a need for financial literacy. For example, paying your bills, how to make your auto payment, how to budget. That is something that is important. And so that is another world that we will develop that will be coming up soon. In a nutshell, Deafverse is a way for deaf teens to be able to level up. At this point, we'll open up the floor to your questions and comments. And thank you for being here with us today and for allowing us to have this conversation with you. This is Ken. If we could move forward one slide. If any of you here are curious about us, about our team, about our work, how we advocate for the deaf community, you can feel free to look at our website at nationaldeafcenter.org. Or if you're curious about playing the game, go to deafverse.com. And also, please do follow us on social media. Are there any questions, any comments from the audience?
Great. This is William. Thank you all for coming.
This is Kent. I see a question. Did we do playtests with hearing teens as well? That is a good question. We did do playtests with specific audiences within the deaf community. You may have seen the videos that we showed in the beginning. The deaf community is not a single type of identity. It is housed of multiple identities. Our community does prefer the use of sign language. Other deaf members of our community can hear, can speak, have some level of hearing. Some do not sign at all. Some have never met another deaf person before. Some have additional access needs, like, for example, those that are deaf-blind, and so on and so on. So we did play test with the deaf-blind community, with the group of players that does use sign language heavily. And we also play tested with those that prefer speech and audio. We received different types of feedback. Some really enjoyed the content. Some would prefer hearing the content, the audio. Our original release of the game 4 or 5 years ago was without any audio at all. And we did receive the feedback that many do prefer having the audio included. And there were also some teachers and educators that weren't comfortable with the sign language content not being in audio, so we added audio. For the blind community, deafblind community, we had to change the UI. The experience back then was not too good. The way the multiple choices were laid out, wasn't readable by screen readers. So we did change the UI. We did revise it to improve accessibility to those deaf-blind individuals. And then we added audio as well for those who need the audio. And we did check in with the community, and we continue to check in the community for enhancements to the program. Now, for the completely hearing audience, we have received some feedback, but you have to keep in mind that this game is intended, the content itself is for deaf youth, for them to develop their self-advocacy skills. But for those who'd like to get into Deafverse and play it, feel free to do so. We also have received good feedback from those who are hearing that they have used the game to know more about the deaf community, to learn signs. Maybe they have a sibling, a brother or sister who is deaf, and they want to understand their experiences more. And we want individuals to understand our community. So feel free to play the game. It is accessible to those who are hearing as well. I see a second question in the chat. Question says, have you explored providing resources for learners who might not know ASL and use a different sign language? And I see their different sign language. We are funded by a federal grant. We need to focus on the United States and its territories. We have received interest from other countries who use different sign languages. And that's where the difficulty comes in. Because of our grant, we are not allowed to work with other countries like that. But we can provide feedback and a little bit of consultation on how they could set up a similar game within their own country. Okay, if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank everyone again. Hopefully you've learned something new, and please play the game. We do have a survey that you could respond to at the end of the game. Thank you so much.